right, everybody, welcome back to Sip and Talk. It's your host, Joe, here with the one and only Sunny.
Hey, everybody.
Ready for another deep dive, Sunny?
You know it. I am so ready.
Awesome. And today we're tackling a topic that's been on my mind a lot lately after witnessing some seriously bizarre squirrel behavior.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm intrigued, Joe. What kind of squirrel shenanigans have you been seeing?
Well, let's just say these squirrels in my neighborhood, they've been training for like the Squirrel Olympics or something. I'm talking like backflips off fences, crazy leaps between trees, like you name it, they're doing it.
Okay, that is pretty impressive. I have to admit, squirrel parkour is entertaining. But are we seriously doing a whole deep dive on squirrel acrobatics?
Hold on. There's more to this. Okay.
Yeah.
Remember that time a squirrel stole like half your sandwich?
Oh my gosh, how could I forget? That little bandit was like a ninja, just snatched my lunch right out of my hand. I'm still traumatized.
Right, but that got me thinking, like, what if that wasn't just random squirrel behavior? What if it was like a calculated move?
Yeah.
A sign of something bigger?
Okay, Joe. I'm not sure where you're going with this.
What I'm saying is, what if squirrels are way smarter, more organized, more ambitious than we give them credit for?
Okay, Joe.
We did some digging, and honestly, the research is fascinating.
All right, you've got my attention. Let's unpack this whole squirrel conspiracy theory. What did you find?
Well, first of all, those acrobatics I mentioned, those aren't just for show. They require incredible coordination, athleticism, and maybe even strategic thinking.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Some of the articles we found actually suggest that these skills could, in theory, be applied to, like, less innocent activities.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. So we've got super athletic, potentially cunning squirrels running around. What else?
Well, the sources also highlight their adaptability. They thrive everywhere, from forests to cities.
It's true. I see them everywhere.
They have an amazing memory for hiding food, remembering, like, thousands of locations.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I've heard about that.
And then there's that whole fake burying thing where they pretend to stash a nut to throw off potential thieves.
So they're deceptive.
That's kind of creepy. Right. Agile, clever, sneaky. Yeah. But how does that translate to world domination?
Okay. Yeah, good question.
Well, that's where things get really interesting and maybe a little bit terrifying. Our research suggests some pretty wild scenarios.
Okay, Joe, hit me with your craziest squirrel takeover theory.
All right, imagine this. Squirrels control the world's nut supply. They've been strategically hoarding nuts for centuries, driving up prices, creating a global shortage. Humans desperate for their almond butter and Nutella fix are forced to pay a nut tax to the squirrel overlords.
A nut tax. That's hilarious. I never thought I'd see the day when squirrels controlled the global economy. But I have to admit, it's a pretty clever strategy.
Right, and it's not just about the nuts themselves. They could also control the trees, the land, the very resources we depend on.
Okay, so we've got squirrels as economic masterminds. What other paths to domination could they take?
Well, remember those backflips? What if those aren't just for fun, but actual military training exercises? Millions of these highly trained squirrel warriors launching coordinated attacks on our cities.
Oh my God, Joe, you're giving me chills. Squirrel paratroopers dropping from the sky, tiny claws gripping tiny parachutes. It's a nightmare I never knew I had.
Exactly. And then there's the technology angle. We know they already cause power outages by chewing on electrical lines.
Oh yeah, those adorable little faces causing chaos in our power grids.
But what if it's not an accident? What if they're intentionally disrupting our infrastructure?
You might be onto something.
And let's not forget their potential for espionage. They could be listening to our conversations, stealing our secrets, maybe even hacking into our computers.
Okay, hold on. Now you're just getting paranoid. I think we need to take a step back and look at this logically.
Yeah, you're probably right. Maybe we've let our imaginations run a little wild.
Just a little. But hey, at least it's fun to speculate, right?
Totally.
Okay.
But even if a full-blown squirrel takeover is unlikely.
Which it definitely is.
Right. Even then, we can't deny that these little creatures are capable of some pretty impressive things.
All right, Joe, let's hear your more realistic assessment of the squirrel situation.
Well, for starters, they definitely play a crucial role in the ecosystem. They help spread seeds and regenerate forests.
That's true. We can't deny their ecological importance, even if they are little thieves who steal our sandwiches.
And even those power outages, as annoying as they are a testament to their ability to adapt and interact with human infrastructure.
Plus, they're just so entertaining to watch. Their acrobatics, their mischievous antics, they bring a little bit of wildness and unpredictability to our otherwise mundane lives.
I'll agree with you there. They definitely keep things interesting.
So maybe we should be grateful for our squirrel neighbors, even if we have to keep an eye on our snacks around them.
Absolutely. And hey, maybe by studying them, we can learn a thing or two about agility, adaptability, and maybe even a little bit of strategic thinking.
That's a great point. After all, they've managed to thrive alongside humans for centuries. They're doing something right.
Well, folks, there you have it. Our deep dive into the world of squirrels, from potential world domination to their vital role in the ecosystem. It's been quite a journey, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. And you know what else is an exciting journey? The return of Micky to life on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait for more travel vlogs and wine-tasting adventures.
Me too. Definitely check it out, folks. You won't be disappointed.
All right, everyone. Squirrel Saga.
So I think it's time we address the squirrel in the room.
You mean the fact that we've spent the last, 15 minutes talking about a squirrel uprising?
Exactly. It's fun in games, but we need to bring in, some actual science here.
Right, because while a squirrel-led dystopia is entertaining, it's probably not going to happen.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
But our research did turn up some interesting studies about squirrel intelligence and behavior.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one article in particular actually breaks down the likelihood of a squirrel takeover based on a few different factors.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, the article starts by acknowledging the sheer number of squirrels out there. There are billions of them worldwide.
Wow, billions. That's a lot of squirrels. I mean, if they did all team up, it would be a pretty intimidating force.
True, but as the article points out, numbers alone don't guarantee world domination.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Think about ants, for example. There are trillions of them, and they haven't taken over the world yet.
Good point. So what other factors does the article look at?
Well, it talks about squirrel intelligence, and while they're clever, their cognitive abilities have limits.
Okay.
They're great at individual survival things like finding food, avoiding predators, but they don't have the complex communication skills or social structures needed for organized, large-scale operations.
Yeah, I've never seen a squirrel, holding a town hall meeting or drawing up blueprints.
Exactly. And the article also emphasizes that despite their knack for causing mischief, their impact on human society is relatively minor.
I see.
Those power outages are a nuisance, for sure, but they're usually just isolated incidents, and we humans are pretty good at finding solutions.
Yeah, I'm sure someone's already working on squirrel-proof power lines as we speak.
Probably. But there was one aspect of squirrel behavior that this article really focused on: deception. Remember how we talked about them fake burying nuts to throw off potential thieves?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I've even seen them do that in my backyard.
Well, the article suggests that this behavior isn't just instinctual. There's a level of deliberate intention to mislead.
Really?
Yeah. Which could point to a more sophisticated understanding of their environment and social dynamics.
So maybe they're not masterminding a global takeover, but they're definitely capable of some pretty sneaky tactics.
Exactly. And, this brings up an interesting point about how we define intelligence.
What do you mean?
Well, we tend to view intelligence through a very human-centric lens, assuming our way of thinking is the only valid one.
That's a good point. We often underestimate the intelligence of other species because they don't think or communicate the way we do.
Right. What if squirrel intelligence manifests itself in ways we don't fully understand? What if their communication is so subtle, so integrated into their natural behavior, that we just haven't cracked the code yet?
Now you're starting to sound like me with the whole squirrel conspiracy theory.
Maybe you've rubbed off on me. But seriously, the research does emphasize that we shouldn't underestimate the adaptability and resilience of squirrels.
That's true. They've managed to thrive alongside humans, even in densely populated urban environments.
And one of the articles mentions how they're already adapting to climate change, shifting their breeding patterns and hibernation schedules in response to rising temperatures.
Wow, that's impressive. It shows they're much more adaptable than we give them credit for.
So while we can probably rule out a full-blown Planet of the Squirrels scenario,
Probably.
it's clear that these creatures are far from simple-minded. They have a complex set of skills and behaviors that allow them to navigate the world in ways we're only beginning to understand.
I agree. And I think it's important to appreciate that complexity, even if it occasionally involves losing half your sandwich to a furry bandit.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe by understanding squirrel behavior better, we can learn something about our own adaptability and resilience. After all, we're all just trying to survive in this crazy world, right?
Well said. So even if we're not facing a squirrel takeover anytime soon, I think it's safe to say these furry creatures will continue to surprise us, challenge us, and maybe even inspire us.
Totally. But before we completely derail this deep dive, let's wrap up our discussion on these fascinating, mischievous, and perhaps slightly misunderstood creatures.
All right, on to part 3 of our squirrel saga. It's funny how this whole squirrel thing started with, a stolen sandwich and some backflips.
It really is. It just shows how, The most ordinary encounters can lead to some pretty big questions.
Totally. I mean, we see squirrels every day, but like, how often do we actually stop and think about their lives?
Mm-hmm.
You know, their motivations, I mean, maybe not world domination, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like we share this planet with these creatures, but we don't really know anything about them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about these deep dives. We start with a simple question, and it opens up this whole world of research and unexpected insights.
And it also makes you realize how much we still don't know. I mean, we have all this technology, all this science, but there's still so many mysteries right here in our own backyards.
Right. Like, what are squirrels really thinking? Do they have dreams? Do they see us as, like, rivals or just clumsy giants who drop snacks?
Who knows? I actually came across some interesting folklore and mythology about squirrels while I was researching this.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
Well, in a lot of cultures, squirrels are seen as like tricksters or mischief makers. Like in Norse mythology, there's this squirrel named Ratatoskr who runs up and down the world tree, causing trouble between like the eagle at the top and the serpent at the bottom.
Wow, that's cool. So maybe there is some truth to our whole squirrel mastermind idea.
Maybe not. But it is interesting how these stories show a certain respect for squirrel intelligence.
It's like deep down we know they're not just cute and fluffy. There's something else there.
Exactly. Whether that something leads to world domination or just more stolen sandwiches.
Only time will tell.
Ugh.
Well, I think it's safe to say we've pretty much covered the world of squirrels, from their skills to their, maybe, ambitions.
We definitely have. So what would you say is the biggest takeaway for our listeners today?
I think the most important thing is to just stay curious. Don't take things for granted, even the familiar stuff, you know? Observe the world around you, ask questions, and don't be afraid to think outside the box.
I love that.
Yeah.
And hey, maybe keep a closer eye on your snacks when squirrels are around.
Yeah, you never know what they might be plotting.
All right, everyone. That's it for today's deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay thirsty for knowledge.